the GAA being for everybody is the most important part. It doesn't matter where you're from, what your capacity is, whether you're good, bad or indifferent at it.
We can understand the power a role model has on young kids.
If you can't see it, you can't be it.
Sport has no barriers. You're all just playing with the same common goal to enjoy and have fun.
Thanks a million for being here today to discuss the importance of keeping girls involved and keeping them in the game. It's a really important topic. I'm sure you've all heard about it. And I suppose the main goal is to identify what actually are the barriers. Why are girls dropping out? We hear the research, 1 in 2 girls, by the age of 13, that transition between primary school and secondary school, 50% dropout rate. That's 1 in 2 girls. So I suppose really what today is just about investigating those barriers and coming up with possible solutions, practical solutions to help alleviate, I suppose, that massive dropout rate as well. So I suppose from my own experience, I'm kind of lucky in the sense that, as a player, as a researcher, and now as a lecturer looking at this area, that I've come through the process myself from a young girl starting football at the age of 11, probably a bit late to think that it was 11 years of age, but luckily had that positive experience whereby, I enjoyed it with my friends and had that success. However, I've also experienced firsthand some of my own friends dropping out of sport and always wondered and pondered, why was I the one who stayed on and why were my friends dropping out of sport? And I suppose that led me to kind of delve into it more and actually want to understand, okay, why are girls dropping out? So I'm going to open it up and I want to know your thoughts before I even kind of share my own research. Like, what do you think is in the way? What's the block? What's the barrier? There's an array of reasons and it's very different for every young girl growing up. Environmental, factors, you have family factors, you have motivation factors, there's loads of different factors. But I suppose based on maybe your own experience or your own opinions or insights, what do you think is the main barrier that's in the way, that's maybe stopping girls from staying involved in sport?
I probably think it's maybe the confidence, just lacking confidence and maybe that self-esteem to actually stay with the sport, particularly if they haven't got the competencies developed, like the fundamentals of movement, the fundamental movement skills or the fundamental game skills that we talk about in coaching. So if they haven't developed those or they don't feel confident in doing them, that's going to be a deterrent factor because they don't feel they're good enough to be with that particular group. So if I'm starting out under 12 years of age, the age group that you started out with, Orlagh, that if you haven't developed those skills at that point, it could be a deterrent factor that you actually step away from the sport.
Absolutely, and I think that's key and something that trickles through the research is that of lack of confidence. And I suppose something that comes into play there too is that kind of social comparison. Girls are very much influenced by their peers and by their friends. And, a teenage girl is quite conscious and there's a lot going on and lots of changes happening. So skill related and kind of body image, it's a big thing for girls and they can compare themselves to other girls and as a result have those feelings of not feeling good enough. Oh my God, am I soloing right? Am I kicking the ball right? Oh, Hannah over there is a better hand pass than me. And that can actually affect my motivation and my willingness to want to be at the training session as well. So that's very interesting with confidence. How do you think, I suppose, we could kind of instill more confidence? Like, what's the solution there?
Well, you said that through your research, that girls are more disposed to comparing themselves to other girls, and I suppose that is a starting point as coaches, or as teachers in my position, that you would be getting girls to compare themselves just solely to themselves, so where they were at, and then gauging their journey throughout their skills or whatever aspect of the PE curriculum or maybe Gaelic games that they're engaging with, that they're not comparing themselves to their peers every week. And if it was a simple PE lesson, like I would think, there could be 13 at class, maybe 15 boys, 15 girls. And if girls are going to struggle with their confidence because they're comparing themselves to others, they're also looking at the boys there as well and comparing themselves to them. And they might feel embarrassed or, embarrassed that they're not able to do the same things. So it's about, focusing on those young people and saying, look, you couldn't do this last week. Now you can lift the ball and balance it on the hurl. What are we going to do next? Well, next we're going to travel with it. Can you move and balance it? And just build up their confidence and make sure that they're comparing themselves to themselves and gauging, you know, their improvement rather than, you know, looking at other girls and feeling bad about themselves because they're not able to perform the skills as well as others.
Absolutely, and I think with the whole skill-related confidence as well, I think, and comparing to yourself rather than the other, I think a lot of the time, you know, that boils down to communication as well and having that like positive reinforcement for girls. I think I'm just speaking on my own behalf. I would crave that, not validation, but more so the feedback, you know, whether it be skill-related feedback or, you know, feedback during a game, etc., that I know where I stand and I know what I have to improve on, rather than kind of looking at other girls or looking at what's going on externally as well, that you're giving them, you know, the onus to look at their own performance as well as actually helping, and that's going to help the team environment and their motivation as well. Have you experienced something, Hannah, like in that regard?
I think there's just one comment that I'd like to say on it, and I think that has a huge part to play, is equality at the end of the day. When we look, you know, as a young player, when I was 11 or 12, I went down to my local club. The lads would always play in the first pitch. We were always pushed aside to the second pitch. Things are getting better, yes, 100%, but there's so much more to go. And I suppose I was fortunate. Look, I decided when I was 11 I wanted to play for Cork, and that was that. There was nothing getting in my way, and I'm very fortunate that I had real support from my family, friends, and whatever. But, you know, if you're a young girl and you're not getting the same opportunities as the young boys, and you're lacking confidence on top of that, it's very easy to slip down. Or if you look at, open a newspaper, guys, no role models to look up to, nothing to see what I can become if I stay at this. And like, if I'm just going to be treated as a second-class citizen here, why would I stay at it, you know? So that's my opinion. I think equality has a lot to play in this. Yeah,
and I agree. Like, I think, look, we are narrowing the gap slowly but surely, and there has been great progress over the years. I remember when I started playing with the Cork ladies, you know, even just the numbers and the attendance in itself is evidence that the game has, you know, it's progressing constantly. There are still some, you know, bits and pieces that do need to be improved. But I think you mentioned a good point there, Hannah. You mentioned like role models and, you know, that whole, if you can't see it, you can't be it. And I think it's so important, and we can't underestimate the power of like that positive influence from a role model, whether it just be campaigns or whether it just be getting your local, you know, girl, junior girl, senior girl in the club to come down to the under 6 or the under 8s in the club, just to have that presence there, I think is so important, because we all remember days, and I'm sure you can all relate to, being in school, primary school, secondary school, and so, you know, the local team or the local stars that come in with the cup. They're the days you remember, and it's important to allow that platform and opportunity so that I want to be like her. You know, I want to play Cork Camogie like Hannah Looney and football. I want to be a dual player. So I think it's important that that visibility is there as well. And look, it is getting better. However, I do think more at maybe a school level, at a club level, it's not that hard to organise really. I mean, it can just be within the club. It can be just club players that they are role models. Parents is another thing. Parents can be the perfect role model. You know, what the research is saying is that if parents are physically active and involved and have that interest in sport, then 9 times out of 10, the children are going to be involved as well. So I do think that it's kind of working with what we have. Okay, how can we try and get, you know, parents and role models and more of that positive social support and positive reinforcement as well, so that girls are allowed to kind of flourish and essentially stay in the game.
Yeah, and just on the role model piece, I think, you know, as I said, I grew up in a GAA family. I was probably looking up at the Cork footballers was who I was admiring at the time. You know, I come from a Hada. Conor Coonahan was the manager at the time. Pierce O'Neill, Kieran O'Connor, they were playing. They were the team that won the 2010 All-Ireland. But I wonder if I was 11 or 12 now, I'd probably want to play hockey for Ireland. I'd probably want to play soccer for Ireland and go to a World Cup, because all these girls are getting this huge platforms that wasn't there when I was 11, you know. So it's great to see, as you say, but needs to keep improving.
Absolutely, yeah. And I suppose like that as well, you know, just in terms of sport participation itself, like, you know, there are other avenues within the club set into it. It's not necessarily you have to be a county player, you have to tog out for your senior club. Like, there are other roles and responsibilities for female athletes as well, such as refereeing, you know, such as the admin side, and maybe female liaison officers there, chairperson, etc. So there's loads, you know, a PRO, there's loads of other roles that can be adopted, not necessarily just you have to be, you know, fit and you have to be scoring 10 goals kind of a thing, that there are other avenues. And I'm very interested to kind of hear your insight, Maggie, just on, I suppose, what inspired you to kind of go, you know, down the route of refereeing. Like, were your club very supportive of that, and what were the opportunities there for you, and how were you inspired along that line?
Yeah, really good question, Orla. In terms of inspiration, it definitely wasn't an inspiration that I ever wanted to become a referee, to be honest with you. It just happened upon my door. I'm very passionate, very involved with coaching within the club. A dual player playing a wee bit of camogie and a bit of ladies football. The opportunity came. The chairperson at the time, when I was involved with the coaching, he came over to me and he says, Maggie, he says, I've got another job for you. I was like, right, what have you in mind? He says, the club actually need a referee. And I said, right, what does this entail? So it kind of went off from there. So anyhow, I agreed because I'm a club person. I felt it was an opportunity that I'm giving something back to the club. So lo and behold, yeah, my name got nominated forward, and I'd done the referee's course, and I assumed that it was just going to be refereeing a few underage games and job done. There you go. Continued to referee. So after the season, you know, the couple of seasons we ever finished up in terms of underage, so I progressed then from refereeing underage into reserve games, into obviously a Division 1 games, league, junior B championship or junior championship, and then into adult senior championship.
Isn't it amazing how just that, you know, one opportunity sometimes, whether it be from a coach, from, you know, somebody in the club, a parent, that like changed your life essentially.
Yeah,
you know, and
asked me one question and it was just like, it was either a yes or no answer type thing, and it was, okay, I've said yes now, so I'm really going to have to do this.
Well, now I suppose that like you are such a renowned ref as well, and like David as well, like, you know, being a female referee at such a high level as well, that like that representation and that positive role modelling as well, like the impact that's going to make on the younger generation as well, and essentially will inspire hopefully younger girls as well, and women, to maybe, you know, take that leap if they are interested in wanting to become a referee. And I think it's important that we're not too like tunnel focused with that yes, we will have girls who want to represent their county. We will have girls who may want to who enjoy playing with their club and just enjoy turning up every Tuesday and Thursday night, and they're keeping fit and they're releasing a bit of stress, and that's okay. We will have girls who may want to look at other avenues, such as admin or such as refereeing as well. So it's about opening up those opportunities in the clubs as well, and providing that platform so that girls have a choice, and you're giving them almost like a voice and a choice, which is so important in terms of keeping the engagement for girls as well. I suppose something that kind of, you know, it's talked about a lot in terms of that transition from kind of primary school to secondary school. Those teenage years can be quite tricky as well. You know, there's a lot of changes going on. That challenge, I suppose, of kind of hitting puberty as well, particularly from the female athlete side of things as well. So I think really it's, you know, yes, the menstrual cycle is there and it can affect, you know, participation, and that can be a massive barrier for girls as well. That fear of, oh my God, I'm on my period, and, you know, maybe there might be a leakage, etc. And I just think there's still that stigma. I don't know if you agree. I think that stigma is attached to the menstrual cycle, and I don't think coaches or parents or even the girls themselves are aware of the impacts that can have on their performance and their participation and their motivation to actually want to keep staying involved. I see it as a PE teacher, you know, girls are kind of, I can't take part today, miss, or, you know, they'd have the note and, oh, I don't think I'm going to turn up to train now because my period has come, but it's not talked about enough. And I suppose 9 times out of 10, it's the male perspective when it's the coach, you know, coaches are males 9 times out of 10, and we kind of have that, is it a secret kind of a thing? Where do we go from there in the sense that it's a natural part of a woman's life, it's part and parcel of the sporting, you know, performance and participation as well. So what are your thoughts on that, in the sense of how do you think it's a barrier for girls?
It's something certainly that I think needs to be talked about more, and I'm coming from a personal experience, having taught in an all-boys school for almost 15 years to becoming principal of a mixed school. And I can remember going to 6th class swimming. It was my first time as principal. I said I'd show my face now up at the pool, and there was a stream of girls sitting on the bench at the side, and girls, why aren't you in the pool? Oh, we're not swimming today. Now, whether that was partly because of the menstrual cycle or because of body image, I don't know. But it was something that I wasn't aware of. And I said, but you all should be swimming. This is part of your curriculum. It's aquatics this month. You don't have a choice. We need to have you in the pool next week. And of course, I would never have thought that there might have been a body image or issue, or that there might have been an issue with menstrual cycle. And it needs to open up a greater conversation, and it is men who needs to be aware of this conversation, because you all know about it and you're all comfortable talking about it among one another, but maybe we're not, and we're not as exposed to it. So with greater conversation comes greater education and a greater understanding of what is going on for young people. And it was certainly an eye-opener for me, and something that I never thought I was going to encounter. But now I'm more cognizant of it, and I'm more careful about what I say to the girls in relation to playing for PE or going to swimming, and how I approach the subject with them.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's, like you said, it's about embracing that. Like, it's part and parcel of a woman's life, a young girl's life. And it's how, I suppose, how do you normalise it and break that stigma? But also, you know, in terms of solutions, like, what can we do to try and break that stigma? What could we do at a club level? Do we think that would actually help with kind of breaking that stigma as well?
It's only now we're starting to talk about the menstrual cycle and periods in the elite level in adult games. So, of course, how are younger generations supposed to know more when we don't even know more ourselves?
Absolutely.
Like, personally, I've only started recently tracking my cycle to my training, and I can tell you now, month in, month out, when's going to be a good training day, when's not going to be a good training day. And, you know, there's so minimal research done on women athletes in general. So we need to get the research done. We need to get it instilled in, I think, our adult levels at first, the importance of it. And like, even, you know, in Cork Camogie setups now, we do a wellness tracker before trainings and stuff. And this is the first year I've seen, are you affected by your menstrual cycle? So I think my opinion would be, we need to get it right at that adult level and show it, normalise it, and then it can filter down.
Yeah. And I think it's just becoming autonomous and actually educating young girls on, okay, it's your body, you need to listen to your body, you know, perhaps track your own cycle. How does it affect you? Because it's very different for everyone.
Yeah.
How does it affect you, you know, on the different stages, and what can you do to get ahead of the game, essentially, in optimizing your performance when you know, okay, next Saturday is the quarter-final of the club county. I know that's day one of my period, but what can I do as a young girl? You know, I'm not going to have all the answers, but can I track my period? Can I maybe get more sleep? Can I maybe increase my nutrition so that I'll have more energy on game day, etc.? So I think it's more about like empowering the young girls, I feel, because it's fine to say to a coach, right, this and that, but at the end of the day, it's the girls that we need to help, and they need to stand up essentially and take that responsibility as well. And I think just small changes, like I know, even with us, Hannah, over the years with Cork Ladies, like even just providing period products such as like tampons, pads, just having them there as a spare and normalising it, like, rather than kind of saying, I remember when I first started playing with Cork, and it was like, do you have a tampon there? Like, kind of hiding it like up your sleeve, and as if it was like a shameful thing, and as if, oh my God, like I can't tell anybody that I'm on my period. I shouldn't be worrying about that when I'm going out playing an All-Ireland final in Grove Park. Yeah. That's the last thing that should be on my mind. Yeah. So I think that actually by making it accessible and by providing things like the period products and obviously education about maybe nutrition and periods, etc. But another thing, right, simple solution, right, is that of just shorts. So first of all, the colour of the shorts can be a massive, like obviously with Cork Hannah over the years, and still, well, we've changed that now, but the dread of wearing the red and white shorts coming up to a game or training when you have your period, it's like, literally, Hannah, will you check the back of my shorts there? Just, again, it's something that can be eliminated by simply changing the colour of the shorts as well. I know Cork last year was the first year we adopted with black shorts last year, and they're navy this year, and red. And like, how do you feel about that, Hannah? Like, how do you feel about? Are you more comfortable?
I suppose the first thing I want to say about the shorts, I think, is it's great from what it's doing for talking about women in health and menstruation. But I do say it irked me a small bit, because I saw, this is great, this made the news, black shorts, brilliant. And then you saw these men presenters on sports shows saying, right, we must talk about women in sport. Oh, I saw the shorts in the media. Let's talk about a few minutes they had. Oh, great, we're talking about periods, great, tick the box, move on, you know. So I suppose that was the one thing that kind of disappointed me, was the reason women in sport was making the media was talking about shorts. But at the same time, it's very important to have this conversation about women's health. But I did feel like a lot of it was a kind of a tick the box exercise. How it makes me feel on the pitch, it's a no-brainer. Like, it's just, as you know yourself, the white shorts, the drama, trying to find suitable underwear, trying to find suitable undershorts, it just takes that stress out of it. And that's what we need for young girls playing.
Absolutely,
remove the stressors, you know. So
no, I agree. And I suppose even just in terms of the shorts as well, it could be something simple as just the actual design of the shorts. And like that, again, that's very topical at the moment. It shouldn't have to take the changing of colour of shorts for us to be having these conversations as well. But I suppose something that's kind of noticed lately is the design of the shorts, that they're not really like helpful in the sense suitable for women's shape of body. So the majority of shorts are designed for men, essentially. And it has to do with the bands as well. So the bands will sit at the smallest part of a waist, which is above the hips, usually for a woman. And as a result, you know, the shorts will kind of rise up a bit, which can be quite uncomfortable and awkward as well, which is another barrier that can be in the way. But it's a simple solution, right? So perhaps even looking at the design of shorts, looking at the changing. I know some teams have adopted that already, and that they're changing the colour as well. Small little steps like that, just in terms of body image, because we know that body image is a massive, massive thing for girls and is a big barrier, and is one of the reasons why girls are dropping out as well. So,
and I guess even outside the shorts, we don't help each other, we don't help ourselves in the sense that all my gear, GAA gear at home, and I have a lot of it, I'd say 95% of it is made for men, you know, so... And Orlagh, through the years, like trying on the leggings and only one of them fitting up to her hips, and then trying on the jersey and it looking like a crop top.
It's either one extreme to the other. We're either swimming in the jerseys or the gear, or they're absolutely bait onto us and we're uncomfortable then. So it's trying to like find the right design, I feel, is a simple solution in terms, because girls do care what they look like. You know, we have to remember body image is a massive influencer when it comes to looking good, and that friends comparing. So we need to embrace that as well and allow girls to feel good in themselves on the pitch just as much as off the pitch as well.
I think with the ladies' sport being so much the fore and growing in Ireland over the past decade, that you would think that these sporting companies that produce the clothes, there's a massive market there for them, for young people. How have they not really embraced this, or been made aware of, or are not changing as a result of these type of conversations? Like, if there are women and children all over the country crying out for these shorts and these jerseys, how has it not changed? I mean, what's stopping it changing? And there's a huge market there, and I think from my point of view, it's really interesting. This is the first time I've ever heard anything about the shape of women's shorts or jerseys, and there's a huge market out there for jerseys and shorts for women, because I suppose in Ireland in the last 10 years, the last decade, there's been a huge growth in lady sport, not just within the GAA, but in all sports. And if that market is there and there's that desire for a need for change, surely these types of conversations are going to be the catalyst to make that happen, because if the desire is there and the market is there, the change should be happening naturally.
But I suppose just to add to that, there is not just the kit that, you know, the girls actually have to fit into or play in, but it's also the facilities that we're in terms of changing rooms. Like, you know, so what's accessible, like, you know, to us as females going into changing rooms. Like, you know, nowadays, like, you know, young girls like to feel good about themselves, want to look good when they're playing their sport. You know, is there mirrors provided? Is there a basic as toilet roll available? Does the toilets even flush? Do they have actually provisions to even get changed in? Like, you know, so these are all the kind of key questions that we probably need to ask ourselves from a club perspective. Like what kind of facilities are we facilitating our young players coming to play our sports? Is it open to everybody? Is it accessible to everybody? And how does people feel within that dressing room? Like, you know, is it like something you'd see back in the 1900s, or if it's something that's modern and it's friendly, user-friendly to everybody that uses those facilities, you know, from our senior men's right down to our bumblebees or whoever it is at under sixes, you know, so it's making it accessible and welcoming for everybody to come.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I think, you know, even on that point of feeling good, when we look at the research and we ask young girls, why are you involved? Like, the number one motivator is feeling good and having fun with my friends. And like, we have to keep thinking of that. Yes, we're going to have the percentage that will go on and want to be elite athletes, but the majority, you know, will be there for participation as well, and we need to meet their needs, and we need to think, how can we make the environment more fun, more inclusive, but also have the competitive side. And this is kind of a debate that it's like a massive barrier in the research, even from my own PhD research, is when I ask the young girls, okay, why are you dropping out? You know, what's getting in the way? What are the blocks there? Lack of interest and lack of fun, coaches being too strict, environment being too serious, too competitive, right? That's what young girls are saying, right? In a GAA context. So I suppose really that kind of begs me to ask the question, okay, what is the solution to that? Okay, like, obviously on one side we're saying girls are playing because they want to have fun, they want to be with their friends, and ironically the number one barrier is because they're not enjoying it. Coaches have been too strict, too competitive. So like, where do we go from there? I mean, how do we make it, is it less competitive? Do we still have the competitive element? How do we try and, I suppose, get the balance there?
Merge the two together. Yeah. We all have different reasons for probably getting involved in a sport. Like, you know, as you previously mentioned, Orlagh, like, you know, it's for the fun, a bit of crack. You know, some of us that's a little bit more maybe competitive really wanted to play at a high level or perform at a very high level. But from a coaching perspective now, we do have to look at the reasons for why kids come to our sports. What's a motivational factor? What's the top 3 reasons why they come to our sport, and how can we accommodate that? Is it the provision of in terms of 2 streams, the competitive route for those who really want to compete or really enjoy the whole challenge of competing, or if it's the second door, where it's a kind of a recreation, bit of crack, and you're learning just skills of the game, increasing your fitness, but it's through fun and through an environment where it's friendly and it's based at the needs of within that group. But I think we just have to probably have to open our minds in terms of our culture and our ethos, maybe within our club structure now, that we have to adapt to the needs of the group of the young girls or young boys that's coming to our doors. Because not everybody's going to be a top level performer, and we all know that in order to create the cream on the top, you need to have a very, very wide and sound foundation at under 8s, 10s, 12s, and you know. We all can accept and move on and move into different directions. Like, you know, so I could play Gaelic football for a year, I might take on basketball next year, and that's okay. It's okay for a child to experiment and to do that, but it's a door open for them to come back.
Absolutely.
And is it accessible for me to come back and say, yeah, I tried basketball for a year, I enjoyed it, but I really want to play Gaelic football, so how can I be accommodated? So again, it's the accommodation part of it as well.
I think you've made a great point there. We know that a very small number of children thrive in competitive environments, but the larger number of children thrive in cooperative environments. So the competitive children will always be accommodated for in their clubs with the league structures, the championship and training sessions. But what happens to the broader base of children? Are they being accommodated for in the club, and how do we make it available to them? What are they coming to do? They're coming to play and they're coming to socialise. And they're the 2 key elements for most children going into Gaelic games. And we need to provide, all right, the competitive structure for those children who are always going to thrive in that. But maybe we need a Friday night where the girls come down and they just pick 2 teams among themselves, like we would have done on the field years ago. And, you know, if one team is beating the other by too much, we swap it around and we make it easy. And we come in and we have a slice of pizza or something afterwards, and there's socialisation. that keeps them involved. It's not all about the league and winning the cup and the championship. We need to keep the bigger number of children and young girls in particular involved by socialisation and having fun.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, because I think it's really important to note that fun is a very broad term and it means different things. And for a young girl, like, fun could literally be just wearing your club or county gear. It could mean having the chats with the girls in the bus. Sure, the crack we would have over the years on the bus going up and down to games. We could tell too many stories. And it could also mean challenging yourself. Yeah. You know, it could mean working on your frees, working on your scoring, working on your blocking. It could also mean just smiling coming out of the training session. Like, it's a very broad term, but it's about finding that balance, and that's where the coach comes in as well. You know, they have to ask the girls, like, that communication has to be there. It has to be a needs-driven approach. Are you enjoying the training sessions? If not, what are you not enjoying, and how can we change that? Sometimes it's just simple, basic communication that can actually go a long way.
Yeah. And can I just add to that there as well, Orla? Some coaches think that by playing a couple or organising a couple of fun games that the session's fun. That's so wrong.
No.
You know, it's...
Sure, like we over the years, Hannah, the hardest sessions that we would have done with Cork ladies, like, they would have been very, very challenging and really hard, and we'd be bait coming out of it. But
then we'd
we
play
had
a game
fun.
of volleyball.
Then we'd play a game of volleyball, and we'd go off and we'd be
handball or something.
Yeah, flying it, and we're in great form, and it's that feel-good environment. Like, players, young girls particularly, will remember how the session made them feel, rather than, okay, we did X, Y, and Z. Yeah, the content obviously is important, and the skill execution is important, but it's more, I'm leaving the training session with a smile on my face, therefore I think she's going to come back to the next training session, and that's your job, essentially. And from a parental perspective, you know, your job obviously would be that encouragement to try, you know, courage and confidence to keep trying if you're not getting your game, which is another reason why girls are dropping out. As a club, what can we do there? Maybe we can provide, like, challenge games whereby all girls are getting a chance. You know, it's a two-way thing, even a three-way thing. I always say it's like parents, coaches, and the girls. It's like a triangle.
Can I ask, Orla, do you think, I totally agree with everything that's been said, but do you think will the elite, or the kids that are going to play inter-county, or the kids that are going to succeed, will they suffer if we're opening the environment to making it more inclusive as such?
Yeah.
Or what do you think on that?
That's a very good point, Anna. And I think it's about, like, kind of differentiation as well. Like, you do have to challenge, you know, those who are maybe on the verge of, like, getting to county level or whatever at the same time, and that's the challenge. At the same time, you know, maybe having to simplify certain things, but also try and encourage maybe, you know, the less well-able kind of kids or whatever that are struggling, maybe kids that are struggling with skill, etc., motivation. It's trying to bridge the gap there as well. So I think it's about getting to know your team and your players. Like, everybody has a different personality as well, and you do have to differentiate. Like, you do have to know your players, and if you know your players, then you're going to know, okay, this approach works for her, and maybe I need to give her way more encouragement. Maybe I need to just leave you at it. Maybe I need, like, it's about getting to know that dynamic. It is really hard, and there's no one size fits all. So you do
adapting even your session maybe as well. You
know,
like, you know, in terms of how you would adapt your session to be more inclusive, like, you know, so it could be like, you know, that some games or some activities that everybody can partake in it, but then maybe the less able or the less confident, you know, are playing maybe a different game parallel to what you're doing. Like, you know, so if I'm a stronger player, well, I'm doing something that's a little bit more challenging for me, but as a coach then, I'm also setting up something that's a little bit something similar, but it's got different maybe constraints.
Yeah, trial and error, and it's about taking those risks and going out of your comfort zone as well as a coach.
As a coach, yeah.
Just to see what works. Like, because what might work really well for my girls mightn't work well for your girls in your training session as well. So there are different approaches that you need to take as well. I suppose another thing that kind of pops up in the research in the sense of why are you dropping out, or what are the blocks that are in the way for young girls, is that of time constraints. I'm sure, Hannah, you'll be able to relate to this. But I suppose just, you know, too busy doing other things, and I guess that comes with the whole environmental changes as well, going from primary school into secondary school. All of a sudden girls are exposed to, you know, loads of study, homework, new friends, some of the friends that they would have had been best friends with in primary school have now moved on to other schools as well. So it's a whole new environmental dynamic, social dynamic. Obviously you've hormones and puberty and all of that as well. So it can be whoa, as well as time to study and time to meet your friends and time to do X, Y, and Z. So I suppose, what are the main kind of, I suppose, solutions there? Like, it's very hard to pick one solution that it's like, you have to do it this way. But I suppose, what are your experiences, even Hannah, for you? Like, obviously you're a dual star with Cork over the years, playing football in Camogie, and you know, you're working. I know obviously throughout college you would have had loads of eggs in the one basket, essentially, loads of perceived pressures, you know, pulling on you, and obviously other sports. You know, so I'd say at one stage you might have could have been playing with about 6 or 7 teams. You know, how did you manage that, and what's the lesson, I suppose, what's the advice that we could give to younger girls or parents or coaches to help, I suppose, balance those demands?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing I take from trying to juggle everything is the skills I've learned from sport has helped me in my career, my school, my studies. It has brought me on leaps and bounds and made me how successful I am in that aspect of my life. And I suppose on that topic, something that really disappoints me is when you see girls getting to maybe their junior cert or their leaving cert year and they're giving up because they need to study. And I'll tell you one thing, if you have your time where you're, right, I need to study till 7 because I'm going training, you'll get it done. You know, you'll get it done, and you'll get it done a lot better because you have those times that you just have to get it done. Well, that's just me personally. If you gave me a week to do something, I'd still do it on the Sunday, you know, whereas if I have my schedules, and you're going to feel so much better if you go out and run for an hour and then come back to the books. You're going to be so much more alert. And I bet you know there's plenty of research in that, you know.
Do you think it's the parents that are putting pressure on, you know, okay, you've your leaving cert now, you need to just stay away and you need to get your head in the books? Or is it more of, are players actually young girls, kind of teenage girls, are they educated, and do they appreciate the benefits of playing, and that it actually will help and enhance their studying and will help them focus and concentrate and release the endorphins and all that? Or is it a bit of both? Or what do you think?
Probably a bit of both, but probably a lack of education on the parents' side and the kids' side. You know, people are like, oh, I must need 10 hours to study. You don't. You can do it in an hour if you're efficient about it, you know. And it's, as you say, teaching kids about all the benefits that sport will actually give them if they keep it up through their studies, through college, through work. You know, you can do it. You know, I play camogie with Cork, I play football with Cork. I live in Kilkenny, I work in Tip, I train in Cork. You wouldn't know where you'd find me on any day of the week. And
so when they say, I don't have time to do it, we'll just say, look, get on to Hannah. She knows it all.
You know, it's not easy, but I think if you're passionate about something, it's
and
worth it,
like,
you know?
what kind of factors have helped you, like, have influenced you in that busy lifestyle and that kind of time prioritizing and things like that? Like, would you say your coach-athlete relationship, you know, have you good support structures around you, or is it more so that you kind of take the onus on yourself and you say, okay, I need to be here X, Y, and Z, or is it, you know?
Yeah, there's probably a lot of things that contribute to it, and as I said, if I know I need to go training at 7 o'clock in Cork, I know I need to get into work earlier. I know I need to get my work done. I know I need to get on the road. Whereas if I didn't have to go to training that evening, it might take me an extra hour to get out of the bed. It might take me an extra 2 hours to do a task that might take me 30 minutes. But I think a big thing that I've had growing up, or in recent times, is just support between management and in the dressing room. And I suppose I take it for example, I think what's been brilliant that's coming into our inter-county setups, and I know other inter-county setups, and needs to feed down, I think, to a club level, it's just that kind of mental health aspect. You know, in both Cork football and Cork camogie at the moment, we have a mental health coach who is just there for you to help. If you were like, oh, I'll pick up the phone and be like, geez, I'm so busy this week, I don't know how I'm going to do everything. To just talk it out and talk through it, and to be able to have those communication and open door goes a long way, you know.
So important, so important. So I suppose really when we look at like the barriers and, you know, all the reasons why girls are dropping out and understanding that firsthand, I suppose looking at, okay, practical solutions, but also we look at that culture in the club setup. So, you know, how are we going to try and empower young girls to want to turn up to that training session on Tuesday night, to want to tog out, even though they have camogie and basketball and everything else on. And what's the culture, and how can we create that kind of culture to empower and allow the girls to flourish, but also to help them retain participation in sport?
Yeah, that point just really resonated with me just when Hannah was speaking there in relation to juggling all that stuff that's going on for you in terms of being a dual player, your work and everything that there. I suppose something that that I like to do with any of the underage teams that I'm sort of overseeing or helping to coach, I get them to sort of come up with their own rules in terms of, you know, what's acceptable, you know, for them to do or be part of. So it gives them a wee bit of more empowerment within the training session. So they might get to choose maybe their warm up. They could be the captain for the day. It could be that they actually take a fun game, that they actually run a session, completely run a session. But they also provide us then with the guidelines that they're, so they set out the rules for not just themselves, but as for the coach as well. So if I'm 15 years of age and I'm studying, or 16 years of age and I'm studying for my junior cert, how often should I be at training? The girls decide that, or the lads decide that. So again, it's a communication piece with the coach, with the parent. So you spoke about earlier on in relation to that triangular model. And I think that has to come into play here massively, so it does, in terms of, because at the end of the day, the kid's not going to be able to go to training unless the parent or the guardian drops them off at training. So you have to have that open communication then with the parent and whatnot. But I think it's given the ownership to the group. So they write out the contract then for the year in terms of what's accepted behaviour in terms of the coach. So they write out the rules. So every girl has to get a game, for example, that they get to decide a fun game every training session. They run their own session at least maybe every 2 weeks or whatever it is, and they get to sort of take ownership there.
You're giving them a voice and a choice, essentially. And I think based on the research as well, like by that autonomy, by having that autonomy and feeling that you're contributing to, you know, that sense of belonging, and you're making your own rules, essentially, that they actually respect you more as a coach, and you back each other more, and then that's going to affect and enhance motivation intrinsically, so that they're deciding. So that's power in itself, that they're deciding. So if something goes wrong, they can always go back to that guideline or the checklist.
That contract is on the wall, and again, you don't have to word it in that way, but it's kind of like it's a mini contract. They write the rules for the group, but they also write the rules for the coach. And the coach obviously contribute then to, okay, well, I agree with that rule, or can we change this rule maybe to be more adaptable or whatever. Everybody signs a contract, and that's what it is. That's the print for the year. If anybody, you know, then there's consequences then of that then. So if somebody does whatever it is that's not acceptable within the group, you know, like, so if somebody's been dismissive of somebody, disrespectful to somebody,
you have something to fall back on as well. And
because again, if somebody's been mean to somebody at training, more than likely people's going to drop out of training as well. You know, if there's cliques being formed, or if there's, you know, bad behaviour, or people being disrespectful.
That's all part of the culture, and that will all build up, and then all of a sudden that's negativity creeping into the culture. So it's so important. Any other thoughts?
I just want to say in that I really like that, Maggie. I've never seen that in an underage setup. I think the skills you're teaching kids outside of what that's life skills that you're teaching them there, and you're keeping them honest. So I just found that really interesting. I think that's really good to have that in underage setups.
Yeah, but it keeps, from a coaching perspective, I think it keeps us right, because essentially they're writing the rules of how the coaching session operates. So you're giving them empowerment, yes. You're giving them a lot of life skills, of course. You're also building that cohesiveness, the connectiveness, mutual respect. It's not like a coach down.
No, it's not authoritative.
No, it's very much. We're at the same level here, and it's our coaching session. It's not the club's coaching session. It's not the coach's coaching session. It's our under 15s, under 16 coaching session, and this is how we roll.
Yeah, it's collaborative.
A great point, because so for young people, maybe young girls, if you're talking culture to them, it can be such a lofty idea. They don't really get, you know, what is a culture, or how a culture is created, or how to drive it. And that example is a real tangible, you know, kind of example of how you can bring it back down to their level. You know, you're having a chat with them. There doesn't always need to be consensus. The consensus, lack of it, maybe promotes discussion. You come out with the contract, and you have their values and their good behaviour. And with good values, good behaviour drives a good culture. And that's just a fantastic example of how to do it in a very simple setting.
Yeah, and it's quite enjoyable. Like, it's something that you could do at the very beginning of the year. Get them in wee groups, get them thinking about, what's the rules? What do you expect? What's your expectations for the year? So what do you expect to get from the end of this year? Is it that, that we actually go out and we maybe go to the beach for the day? That could be the biggest expectation of the year.
Which is important too, because you have the social interaction.
Absolutely. It mightn't be to win an under-16 title. That could be the last thing on their minds. Like, it could be just like, okay, well, have we got permission to go to at least one local disco?
Yeah.
Do you know? Like,
but they define then, like we were saying earlier, about what success means as well.
Yeah.
So that takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
And also, in doing that, it's actually feedback for the coaches as well. Kind of indirectly, the coaches kind of know where they're at with them, and they can always fall back then to that collaborative contract, if we want to call it that.
Yeah.
I think you've mentioned success there, and how we rate success is so important. If you're a coach of a young ladies football team, success might not mean winning the championship. It might mean keeping a group of players, 20 of them, playing for 10 or 15 weeks, that they all turn up to training and they all get game time. And after 20 weeks, if they're all still there, that's success. Surely that's success.
And I'll always remember on that point, David Gough, I think Mary O'Connor has a brilliant saying. She says, everyone has their own Everest. Like, okay, my Everest might be winning an All-Ireland with Cork, but as you say, someone else's Everest might be going down to the train and having the crack and going for that slice of pizza after. So, it's how do we get everyone going for their goal, and what success means to everyone is different,
So thanks so much for having this conversation. I really, really enjoyed it, and it's great to be able to, have these conversations and make that positive change and impact with the hope of keeping girls in the game.
Thanks, Orlagh.
Thank you.